Relationships, like everything else in life, needs self-awareness, needs work, needs effort, and needs patience. A relationship will not fix you. The partner is not your parent. The partner cannot heal your childhood wounds. The partner can support you in meeting your unmet needs, but cannot fulfill all of your needs for you. Being in a relationship might make that journey easy. Somebody is there to constantly cheerlead you from a very good intention, positively. It's great. Your journey will be easy. But does that mean that the person will do all the work, or the relationship in itself will complete all of your personality, like, a graph that has gone low? No. People wait for another person to accept them with all of their flaws without them accepting themselves.
Welcome back to another episode of the Inspiring Talk podcast. This is the episode that's going to transform your relationship with your partner. In this episode, you will learn the insights and ideas that you might have never heard about when it comes to building a relationship with your partner. We talk about the ideas of conscious relationship. What does that mean? How do you co-create conscious relationship with your partner? How do you resolve conflict? How do you have difficult conversations with your partner without being disrespectful? How do you go about growing together as a couple? And in this episode, I'm joined by Kasturi Mahanta, who is a relationship coach and couple therapist. She has got a lot of wisdom and depth in this subject, and I was blown away with the ideas that she shares on building a beautiful relationship with your partner. And this is the kind of episodes that I'm super proud in bringing on the Inspiring Talk podcast for you. Make sure that you make a lot of notes from this episode because, like I said in the beginning, it's going to transform the relationship with your partner. Let's begin. Welcome back inside yet another episode of the Inspiring Talk podcast, and I'm super excited to have Kasturi in the studio today. Kasturi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vijay. Hi. Thank you for inviting me. I think it's been a long due thing, so I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. I was browsing through the Instagram, and then, one of your posts popped up, and I realized, hey, here's somebody who talks about conscious relationship, and that too in India.
Right.
Because I haven't seen many people talk about that. So let's begin there. What is conscious relationship?
Okay. Yes. Conscious relationships, if I have to explain it to you in a very layman language, it would be a relationship where you are self-aware and you understand the nuances of your partner from an aware perspective. Okay? That is what conscious relationships are.
What do you mean aware perspective?
Aware perspective as in where you have the ability or the perspective to see things that are happening in a relationship neutrally and not take everything very personally, not put a very ego-based single lens and look at it from a perspective where your partner exists just to please you, or, the relationship is supposed to be exactly how you visualized a relationship to be. It might not be that sometimes, and not all days are equal days, right? So it's the same with relationships, but we put so much of undue pressure in relationships thinking, oh, that's what they did. Why did they do that? And people would keep on, and by people, I mean like everyone. I think everyone who has or is trying to or is claiming to have reached a conscious level in a relationship has gone through all of these turmoils in their, heads where they keep on overthinking about how, relationships are and how they are affecting you, like the person in the relationship. And you have to really consciously make an effort to understand yourself first, because once you understand yourself, it will pave the way to understanding the other person. It will start paving the way to understanding the other person as a singular person with their own needs and wants, not like do jism ek jaan wala concept, which is what's taught to us for the longest time. Even like, a relationship happens, you are supposed to coexist and then keep on doing stuff for each other, please each other. Your entire 24 hours revolves around how to make them happy. All of these are not signs of a conscious relationship. All of these are conditioned beliefs that we have incorporated into our lives. And then we face stress. We face turmoil because of these thoughts. And then we feel like, why is the relationship not getting this way? Why relationships are not meant for me, love hurts, love is not meant for me. And then we form all of these beliefs, right? So what I want to introduce to everyone who's listening to my content, of course, I'm not the only one, but what we want to do collectively as people who talk about conscious relationships is make people understand that relationships, like everything else in life, needs self-awareness, needs work, needs effort, and needs patience. And the moment you start liking a person or get into a relationship is not the end of the relationship. It's just the beginning
of it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to know what to do, when to do stuff, so that it sustains. If you want to see it as a long-term thing, you will have to know how to proceed.
Yeah. Since you mentioned that people need to work on themselves,
Right.
And be aware of who they are and
Yes.
what are their needs and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, do you think when we attract somebody in our relationship, we attract the person with the similar kind of like belief system or the kind of people that we are? Or do you think do you attract in like, hey, you know what, like attract likes? Like if you are messed up internally, you are going to attract another person who is messed up. If you are looking for someone else to make you happy because you yourself are not happy, then do you think also the other person is feeling the same way?
Interesting question. But interestingly, what happens, though we believe that like attracts like, I believe that like will only attract like and be sustainable or fruitful for your growth if you know what you want. A lot of people...
It again goes back to the awareness.
It goes back to the awareness. Now, you might be very broken inside. You might have had a very bad relationship in your past, and you feel like you attract a person who understands you, who does not give you that kind of drama that you faced in your last relationship or something. But does that mean you are seeing it from a trauma lens? Because you haven't healed yourself, right?
Yeah.
So now what happens is you are looking at that person will not give you any of the turmoil that you faced in your previous relationship. But when the relationship progresses, the first 2 weeks, 2 months, or sometimes even 2 years, the honeymoon phase gets over, you start looking at the real person and what they are, right? You understand that, now, of course, in these 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, you are also changing. Your growth is also happening, right?
Yeah.
But you are unable to take the other person's growth, or you're unable to take the other person's perspective. Because for you, it is like, I'm a very one person, one perspective lens. I have been operating the same way I was operating 10 years ago. If you're still in that stage without healing from your past wounds, without healing from the trauma that life has thrown at you, and we all go through different kinds of trauma, we have to acknowledge, accept our wounds and work on them. A relationship is not like a band-aid on your trauma, right?
I think that's very important to understand. Yeah.
Yes, a relationship will not fix you. The partner is not your parent. The partner cannot heal your childhood wounds. The partner can support you in meeting your unmet needs, but cannot fulfill all of your needs for you. But how many people get into a relationship totally understanding that I'm just going to give selflessly and I'm going to work on myself and then we will see how it goes? Very rare, right? That's what we need to understand, that if we move in that direction, if we move the perspective, our perspective of a relationship to that direction, relationships can sustain from a very beautiful growth perspective, where both people are growing, understanding, and just supporting each other in their journey. Because what is the point of a relationship otherwise, right? A lot of people give up on relationships. Relationships do nothing except to make your life journey easier, right? You have someone you can depend on, support them, right? Selflessly give and take support. So if you can conquer that concept, which obviously takes time, because life is a growth journey, right? As you grow, you need to keep on understanding and analyzing your patterns, your objectives. And it really helps if you have a partner or you fall for someone consciously who supports this growth journey, right? Instead of getting into a relationship and saying love is this, and then fighting and trying to change, tweak that other person to fit into your criteria. That is what an unconscious relationship is. I think
that's beautifully explained, because a lot of times people think that, hey, you know what, I'm going to fix this person and I'm going to, you got to change
them.
for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to save them.
Yes.
Or you got to change for me.
Yes,
like,
yes.
either this is what's happening or you got to change or this is not happening. But the person the authentic self is such, then then maybe not the right person for you. Then why are you trying to fix the person, right?
Yes.
So what's your thought about people wanting to getting into relationship just for the heck of it? Like, hey, you know what? A lot of my friends have the relationship, and I need somebody to to just say that I'm in relationship as well, and then and then eventually you not necessarily are falling consciously and getting into relationship.
Right. I believe all our conscious journeys start off unconsciously. Okay? So I wouldn't expect anyone, for example, if we talk about a 12-year-old boy or a 16-year-old boy or a girl getting into their first relationship, I would never expect them to be a very conscious, self-aware person.
Yeah.
Because life consciously starts happening to us when we live life, when we let life happen to us, right? So when they get into a relationship, I'm pretty sure they would get into a relationship either for peer pressure, either for initial attraction, and all of that is completely fine. My biggest concern into the generation nowadays is that people are too anxious about, I got into a relationship, now I have to keep this relationship forever. Is this the person I'm going to be with for the next 50 years? At the age of 16, stop thinking about that. That is not the aim. The aim is not to keep a person with you forever. It's not like a jail that you have kept around yourself. It's supposed to be in tandem. If growth's happening, both of you are going in that same journey. You have the ability to walk in a certain speed together and not bog each other down or push each other to different troubles and not be there to support them. That is when the relationship gets difficult, right? But if you're initially starting a relationship, go for it. I would say you will only get into a conscious relationship and understand relationships more if you let relationships happen to you. You cannot be so cautious. Just yesterday I was thinking of this. We are so cautious about everything. But in some, for example, driving a car or taking an auto, anything could happen to us in a road accident, right? But do we stop doing that altogether? We don't. So we need not consider this something like a lot of people, they get very devastated with their first breakup. And I understand that is normal. But the perspective here is that it is okay. You just let life happen to you. That incident is going
just
to make
don't
you
take too
grow.
much pressure on your first relationship itself.
No. And let that happen. Do not
hurry in any relationship.
Or do not restrict yourself and regret later. A lot of people go on 4 years down the line and they would be I just wish I would have let that happen to me. It's only going to make you learn something. If it's hurtful, it's going to make you learn that, there were certain wounds that I got now, or it will show you a real picture of how you were and how the other person is and how to make better choices now. What do you need? How will you know about your needs if you're never in a relationship and only want to wait till you get into a conscious relationship? That can't happen. But what I mean to say is embark on the journey.
Give an example of some of the needs that people have or seek for in relationship.
So needs might be something like loyalty, honesty, financial stability, right? Needs might be caring, communicative, shows emotions, right? All of these might be, and needs, it's a long list. Of course, everybody's needs will vary, but these are some core needs that a lot of people can relate to, okay? So this is an example of, how you can understand. And for this, everybody's needs vary, right? So you have to think, sit down in a quiet place for 10 minutes without a screen, right? Without your phone, without thinking of other stuff. And just think if you've already been in a relationship, think what that relationship gave you and what you wanted if it's not there in your life anymore. If you're not in a relationship and want to get into a relationship, think of all the things you want a relationship to offer. It will vary for you, it will vary for me, it will vary for everyone. But to self-analyze will give you the power to make the right kind of choices and not
really important,
and not just fall into something. And say that, but I didn't have that irada only. That happens a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate to that a lot because, the way I thought about my own relationship is, for the longest period of time, I felt that I'm not ready for any relationship. And I felt that it's okay for me to, at this point of time, not feel ready for any relationship, right? The first relationship that I had was, when I was in my, early first few years of my college, and then,
Right.
it got over. And then after that, like I've never sort of gotten into any relationship, and nor I sort of took any steps to get into
Action,
any,
yeah.
action to get into any kind of relationship.
Right.
And when people used to say like, hey, why are you not in a relationship? And I didn't have an answer at that point of time. But later on, over the period of time, I realized that, hey, the reason, and then I asked that to myself, like, why am I not in any relationship right now?
Yes.
And then on a reflection, I realized that I feel that I'm not ready for a relationship yet. The reason is because I don't want to get into any relationship for the heck of it.
Okay.
I want to get in a relationship because I want to do something meaningful. Not necessarily that I'm going to live with this person forever,
Right.
but it has to be something meaningful,
Yes.
which means the person need to have certain values.
Right.
And these are my values. This is what I bring on the table, and this is
Yes.
what this person needs to bring on the table,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then when I felt that, I think now I have gotten past the phase where,
Right.
I needed to work on myself and
You
sort
had
of
reached a desired level of
reach the
your-
desired level
Yes,
where I
yes.
felt that, okay, I think I have resolved the things that I needed to resolve
Right.
internally, and
Right.
now I think open and in sort of getting in relationship. So I think I also feel that people should also know that, hey, you know what, and I didn't take any pressure of my friends going out and stuff like that. Of course, I felt bad for
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
like everybody
Yeah,
having
yeah,
a
yeah,
relationship and me not having, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna go and date with. You can
No
date,
intention.
but no
Yeah.
intention of like go and get into relationship. Yeah.
But I think that's a very nice thing that you just shared. Understanding your own values. Now, how were you able to do that? I'm just taking your instance for example, right? How were you able to do that? It was because you thought about this. You dedicated thought about what a relationship means to me, not about let me fall in love.
Yeah.
Because if you think of it from the other perspective of falling in love, I think pop culture around us has done a huge favor, or like I would say, I don't know what to say, with the concept of love. It is they always interestingly show the wooing, the dating, all of these, and never like, how many movies would you remember who have like a husband and wife or like a long-term live-in couple discussing life? Because that's boring.
That's boring, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's for no use in commercial stuff, in commercial cinema. Who would watch that? But everybody is excited about the initial, going out and having chat with your
Yeah.
girlfriend, or, going on bike rides. These are the kind of pop culture images that relationship means. Clearly for you, you did not have that kind of pressure in your head, but you might be one of the rarest of the rare. A lot of people fall into this propaganda, this agenda of what a relationship means, and the relationship means you have a partner to go to places to eat, and then, it's chill, yeah? It's just like that, because
Yeah.
that's what has been pushed. The messaging has been that in terms of love all this while.
Yeah. And that's really that's so true, because a lot of relationships and the couples that I see, and one of the things that I wanted to have, like, I wanted to understand this person really deep. Like,
Yeah.
I want to know what her values are. I want to
Right.
understand like how she thinks, and
Right.
and I'm not bothered about like what is your favorite color, or what's your favorite movie and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, those are the
Yeah.
normal conversations that
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
have in the first.
yeah.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't know that and all of that stuff. Yeah, of course, that's important too. But like for me, I want to know this aspect first, and then maybe obviously I can talk about all of those, because if I can't find the alignment,
Yes, very true.
yeah,
Yeah. The alignment is something that's extremely necessary. Also, a lot of people might, be questioning when they hear this, that, but, only alignment doesn't work. I would also say here that we are a byproduct of our conditioning. We as humans are byproduct of what life has thrown at us and how we have survived life.
Yeah.
Right? So our responses, our ideas of what love is, what care is, might vary hugely from a person who has come from a totally different background,
Yeah.
with totally different conditioning, with totally different values and ethics, right? And still be aligned in some way.
yeah,
Now, there are some easy relationships and there are some hard relationships. Some easy relationships are like, it just keeps on happening, it's just happening one after the other. It's all in alignment, it's all in tandem. They like this, I like this, it's all similar, it's all like, there is not much adjustment to make per se between the partners. Whereas sometimes there is a connection, there is an alignment, but there are a lot of adjustments that needs to happen from both sides, right? So it's also a choice of where you see and find that alignment in, and what you prioritize. Do you prioritize the ease of the relationship, or do you prioritize the alignment, the understanding, and the growth that you are having while adjusting to the other person, right?
Absolutely.
And this hard relationship, people can sometimes term as compromise, which is like a huge negative term in the entire relationship spectrum. Oh my God, I have had to compromise. Oh my God, will I compromise? Like these kind of things, right? But I want to like generally put it out that nothing in the world is negative or positive, good or bad. It's just your perspective. If you can compromise with things that you are okay with, maybe it's just teaching you how to be patient. Maybe it's just teaching you how to be adjusting, because as a concept, a relationship is a dual form. It's not something singular. So obviously, you can't compare it to a single person and how he lives life or they live life, and how like a couple in a relationship would live life. There would be some kind of understanding, patience, nuances of, each other's life being transferred here and there. And you will have to make that space, and that's your choice. You might willingly choose to not do that, and that's completely fine. But if you are in a relationship where you're feeling guilt or, negative because of this, then you must understand that all of this is normal. Everything can propel you towards growth if you give it that space. Okay, you have to like zoom out. We are always so near like this to all of our negative problems. We are like here. Okay, so I give this analogy to my clients a lot, and you might have heard of this, but I'll tell you. So imagine there's a maze, right? Like a huge maze. And I personally am very scared of maze, like Alice in Wonderland mazes, okay? Like 10 feet, 20 feet mazes. If you get into there, and you can, I don't think, without getting scared or like really anxious, it'll be difficult for you to find the way out. Because it's a huge maze. It's like a huge thing, right? But on a Sunday newspaper, there is a maze column, right? Where you have to go from one end to the other. You have to like exit. You can do that so easily with a pen and paper, right? Why is that? It's because
you have the top
perspective,
view, like a zoomed out view, macro
right?
view.
You have to get out of certain things at points to understand. You have to take like a deeper, bigger bird's eye view perspective of the problem sometimes. Because we are so close and so up close and glorifying that negativity or like the things, ups and downs that we have in our life, sometimes it's difficult for us to get out of that maze. It scares the shit out of us. I don't know whether I'm supposed to say that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It scares the hell out of us. Okay. So, yeah, that's what I feel about that.
At one point, I'm again sharing this, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. It's like, getting desperate to get in relationship. And I was at this event, okay, and we were really having a very close, neat sort of discussion on what's bothering you. And then, this came out as one thing, like, hey, I want to get into a relationship. And then I don't feel like sort of, getting into, it seems like I'm not getting into any relationship or whatever, right? And then one of the people in that group gave me a really interesting thought that, hey, you know what? It seems that you are very desperate to get in a relationship. And if you go with this desperation in any relationship, it's highly likely that the other person is equally desperate.
Interesting.
So what do you tell to people who are desperate to get in relationship? I know we touched briefly about people wanting to or getting in relationship for the heck of it, but what do you tell? Like, hey, if you're too desperate or if you're really wanting to have a relationship, like what is it that you should be doing before you sort of get in a relationship or even look for anyone to go on a date or...
Right. I think the first thing, if somebody comes with that kind of a desperation to me, honestly, I would question them about the why. Why? First of all, tell me, what does a relationship mean to you? We have a lot of narratives about how relationships look like and what the relationship should be for us. it's very important to know what the person is feeling, that the relationship can change in their life. And I'm pretty sure they feel that some huge change will happen once they get into a relationship. But it's the same thing as, looking for happiness in something and not finding happiness there. Because, we feel we want that new car. Oh, people are going to respect me more. That doesn't happen. They get the new car, somebody gets a bigger car. Then what happens? We are basing our self-worth, our respect, our confidence upon somebody else. That is what I feel the person would be feeling if he is desperate to get into a relationship. He is suffering from low self-esteem. He has low self-worth. And he feels like a relationship or a partner in their life can change it. Which, if they get into that relationship in that mindset, they might very well. And it's not necessarily that that person will be also that desperate. Maybe that person likes that kind of emotion that the other person shows in desperation. People may not understand that as desperation for somebody as from the opposite sex or like whoever they want to date, right? Now, once that initial, novelty of the relationship wears off, the void that is created, for the self-esteem and self-worth, where does that go? That cannot be filled by a relationship or somebody else.
That's true.
You will still have to work on yourself for that, for your confidence, to feel confident without your partner. Would you tag your partner along everywhere where you go? Not possible, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are the kind of questions I would ask this person
really
first.
interesting,
And, try and analyze that what is the void that they are actually trying to close or trying to shut. What is that gap? If they understand that, being in a relationship might make that journey easy. Somebody is there to constantly cheerlead you from a very good intention, positively. It's great. Your journey will be easy. But does that mean that the person will do all the work, or the relationship in itself will complete all of your personality, a graph that has gone low? No. You have to work on yourself. And that is something I would genuinely ask everybody to, also analyze on their own. What is missing in them? And sometimes, we just get irritated or, we get frustrated at our partners or somebody that we are dating or somebody that we like or we are talking to. Because we feel triggered. Because, they showed us some kind of a mirror that we have
that
lacking,
we need to heal,
and we can't take that.
Yep.
So that's that.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. You said low self-esteem and not having the confidence in yourself, whether to go out or ask somebody out or whatever that is, right? And I can so relate with that because I had to work a lot on my own self-acceptance before anything else, right? I told you I felt that I was not ready. And a major part of it was because I was not able to accept myself the way I am.
Right.
Emotionally and, physically, whatever that is, right? So
Right.
the moment I started going on this journey of accepting myself, and putting myself out the way I was. Hey, this is who I am.
Yes.
And then I realized a lot of people started feeling people in the friend circle, they start feeling that we see that you're getting more and more confident by the day. And I was doing nothing else, but I was just becoming myself. And I'm internally, I accepted myself. Okay, this is who I am. And I think
That's
that is
beautiful.
so important for people to accept themselves.
Yes. Accept yourself.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of and the most beautiful part of acceptance is that you don't have to accept your flaws.
Yeah.
You can work on them, na?
True.
But acknowledge your flaws.
Acknowledge your flaws. Absolutely.
Right? And then you feel I'm not confident enough. Do something that will make you more confident.
Yeah.
You don't, a lot of people have external, insecurities about their body, about the way they look. If you do not, and if, your entire body and your mindset is telling you, this is something that I'm not confident in, help yourself. Help yourself do something that's, going to help you in your journey. It's going to elevate you. Do that. People wait for another person to accept them with all of their flaws without them accepting themselves. A relationship cannot sustain like that.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think there is something called as a perfect relationship? Do you think that exists?
I wish, but no. No, there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. A relationship may have its perfect moments, But a relationship journey cannot be perfect. If it's perfect and if somebody is in a perfect relationship, I think you are idolizing the relationship. You're putting that relationship on a pedestal. You're putting your partner on a pedestal and refusing to even acknowledge or even see their flaws because you feel like if you see them, it's the end. A real conscious relationship means that you understand the person from a perspective that they are human. Just because you love them or you adore them or you're married to them or you're dating them does not make them superhuman, does not make them God. You have to identify, understand and accept those person's flaws and work on your own. Not try to work on their flaws. Not push them to do all of that. You can only support them.
Yeah.
Okay? So, yeah, perfect relationships don't exist. Perfect moments do.
I
Yes.
love that. So earlier you also mentioned about the childhood wounds and healing
Yes,
and stuff
yes,
like that, right?
yes.
So I found this concept of attachment styles
Yes.
very, very interesting,
Yes.
and how people have a lot of different attachment styles, and I think there
Yes.
are 4, right? Like
Yes.
measure 4
Yes.
kind of attachment styles in
Correct.
relationship.
Correct.
So first explain to everybody who's watching or listening this
Yes.
that what is attachment style and what are those 4 different kind of attachment styles, and how can people move from some of those attachment
Understood.
style to maybe more of a secure style of
Right.
attachment, which is
Right.
one of those 4. Yeah.
So thank you for asking this question. This is a very informative and it intrigues me a lot personally as a person who has been, doing this for a while now. John Bowlby was an American psychologist who introduced this concept following an experiment that he did in hospital quarters. Okay? So what did John Bowlby do? John Bowlby went to the maternity section of a hospital and did an experiment on how do kids behave when their primary caregivers or parents leave the hospital bed and go away for some time. And there were different reactions of different kids.
Okay.
They might have been in different pain or like if they were okay, how the reaction was. That once he started, accumulating the research, he found that there were 4 types of attachment that can be mainly categorized in any codependent or parent-child, and that translates to adult relationships as well. Okay. So the first, in no specific order, there are just 4 ones, and it attaches on a spectrum. Now, before I get into this, I would like to clarify that you need not put yourself in a box if you identify yourself as one. Attachment styles exist on a spectrum.
Coexist.
Yes. It's a huge thing. Attachment is this. If it's this graph, then they're all scattered in this. You do not have to put yourself into one box and be like,
You might have a
now
little bit
what?
of this and a little bit of that.
Yes,
and
you
stuff.
might
Yeah.
be. You might be. Okay. So one very common style of attachment that was seen with children, which translates onto adult lives, is anxious attachment style. Now, what happens in anxious attachment style? You are constantly worried about the relationship. You are constantly worried about your partner cheating on you. You are constantly worried about the worst in the relationship. You are constantly wanting to spend time. You are leaving everything else to just be in the relationship in the fear, maybe, of what happens if I don't give them enough time. Now, again, I'll not get into the why because there's a lot of analysis to every section, every spectrum. But what I would say that there is anxious, which is like that, there's a lot of emotions and people get anxious with their partners in the relationship. Then there is the avoidant. The avoidants are basically people who can be categorized as not willing to show love or show emotions. They would be the last one to pick up a fight. They would be not very vocal with their, feelings. Yeah, they like you, they love you, but they wouldn't keep on giving huge grandiose gestures, and they would, in a fight, they would feel bad, but they would maybe shut down because they would get overwhelmed by the emotions and do not want to engage in a fight. Okay? So that's how avoidant attachment style works.
They try to avoid conflicts.
Yes, as the name suggests.
Yeah.
They're avoidance. And because they're avoiding conflicts, they're avoiding good parts
Emotions
also.
as well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, where it could have been something lovey-dovey, they don't do that. They do not feel okay doing it. They are not at ease doing it. Right? And then there is the disorganized attachment, which we call the avoidant anxious attachment, which is a mix of both. As explained, like, sometimes this type of people with these kind of attachment styles can be very confused because sometimes they want to, give it their all. And on other times, when they don't get that reciprocation, they might shut down like an avoidant. Okay. So a mix of both is that. And then the last one is the secure attachment style. Secure attachment style, if we correlate it to the experiment John Bowlby did, these children were sad when their parents left. They felt lonely when their parents left. But when the parents came, they got reassured. They understood that, oh, now my caregivers are here. I can be normal again. Okay? So what happens in secure attachment style? You get sad. You have your bad days. You have your relationship ups and downs. But you can communicate, you can express your feelings, and you can understand your emotions, and you can understand why they came from and express them, communicate them to your partner. That gives you more space to resolve conflicts instead of, making up stories in your head and, thinking about why this did not happen, or being hurt in silence and thinking that the partner does not understand me. So these are the 4 attachment styles. What we can aim to do as an anxious one, if you're 80% anxious, you might be 10% avoidant, 10% secure still. Otherwise, how is the relationship going on?
Yeah,
but
true.
What we want to do is, we want to bring it to like a 40% anxious, 60% secure. Then we exist on that spectrum. It's not that, once you learn some certain tricks and then you become secure and, and anxiety and avoidance will never happen in your life. It's not like that. It's life.
So the idea is to move to more secure relationship.
Yes. It's to move to like a major secure, and so that when the anxiety or the avoidance does strike, we can regulate it. It does not have to be like an earthquake in the relationship.
So what will the people who are in a secure attachment style, what are some of the traits that they would exhibit in a relationship?
As I mentioned before, attachments, when you have a secure attachment style, it's not like you will not feel pain, you will not feel happiness, and you will be like a saintly person in
not
a relationship.
Maybe you don't need the requirement to like call and check every hour, where are you and what's
right.
happening. And
so I'm coming to that. So you would, if you're worried, okay, you haven't gotten a call from your partner for the past 12 hours, you're worried. You call them, they do not pick up. An anxious person here would be like, oh my God, this is a dialogue that will happen in the head. Okay? Oh my God, are they with someone else? What are they doing? Are they doing something and I'm left out here? Anxious dialogue. Okay? And avoidant would be, why did I call 2 times? Now they'll think I'm desperate. I shouldn't have called only. I should have let them, call me. Why did I do that? I shouldn't have. Oh my God, what a creep. What will they think now? I shouldn't, they will only silence their phone or put it on DND and then go to sleep because they don't want to get involved, to be known as vulnerable. That is avoidant. Dismissive, again, disorganized can be both. Sometimes they are exhibiting anxiety, sometimes they are exhibiting avoidance. Now, in that similar situation, a secure person would be like, calls, does not get an answer, right? So they leave a text that, hey, I am worried about you. I haven't heard from you for the past 12 hours. Let me know when you see this. I just want to know if you are okay. Now, a secure person dialogue is not like, what is she doing? What are they doing? Where are they? No, I am worried. It would help me. This is
what I feel, and I'm going to let you know this is what I'm feeling, and that's
and you just reply, and there'll be no fights after that. I'm not doing this only to gain one reply, and then the moment you reply, I'll blast on you. No, they will be regulated. Their emotions do not, completely are dependent on the other person's actions or doings. So that is how a secure attachment would look like in practical life.
I think that's a great example. I'm sure people who are listening to this are already learning a lot on the different attachment styles.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, and the relationship as well. So let's talk about conflicts in relationship.
Right.
And like you said, perfect relationship doesn't exist, which means there's conflict in every relationship.
Yes.
And the only difference is how couples handle conflicts, right? So is there a framework or maybe a sort of or perspective that you want to share on how people can sort of deal with conflicts? Is there a prerequisite in any relationship that needs to go in when they are setting the foundation of relationship to make sure that whenever there is conflict that arises, then this is how we are going to deal? Or how do people deal?
Yeah. So everybody now again has different ways of dealing with conflict,
Yeah.
right? But regardless of now, we are not like, into the conversation that how two different people are different. But I'm talking about a general framework of how conflicts look like in a relationship. Okay? The major reason why a conflict would occur in a relationship is because relationships are supposed to show you your shadows. Relationships are like a mirror into something that you do not want to see, because relationships are so close-knit. Relationships are so personal, so intimate.
Yeah.
The more you give, the more you can also see,
Yourself.
right? And it really triggers people.
Yeah.
It really triggers you because everybody else who you're not in a relationship with, maybe it's like acquaintances, colleagues, family, they would maintain that one single distance where they would know that I'll not cross this line, and they will also not cross that line. It's kind of like, okay, this is your life, that is my life. What happens that in a relationship that line gets blurred? Values, goals, ethics, lifestyle, everything starts getting merged. Right? One big element that goes missing, and a lot of people have irreparable conflicts that lead to separation, breakups, is loss of respect. Why do such conflicts not happen with friends and colleagues on a day-to-day level? Because an unspoken level of respect and a boundary exists. So very important first to have some boundaries in your relationship.
How do you set that?
We set that by boundaries are what? Boundaries are basically things that you're comfortable in. You would just be, I have set a marked an area, and in this area I'm comfortable. I would think twice if somebody tries to snatch that comfort from me.
Bazin, yeah.
Right? So that is a boundary. You set your boundary like you do not want somebody to talk to you in a very loud voice, right? And it can be your partner. It is boundaries are applicable to any kind of relationships, okay? So you can go simply like, saying you're in the middle of a heated argument. Now, heated does not necessarily mean everybody who's listening or watching, the moment I say heated will have a different, vision of what a heated looks like for them.
Loud.
What a heated looks like, for me as a person who would understand relationships would be that heated means that I am being shown something or I am being told something that I do not want to hear. I am reacting. It's a very reactive fight. Okay? So we are not responding. I'll come to that what's the difference there. But now I'm reacting and the other person is also reacting and I'm not being able to stop myself to say something. The other person shouts at me. So what will I say is, if you raise your voice at me one more time, this conversation is over and we'll have to find another time to do this conversation, because I'm not going to indulge with a conversation with you when you're raising your voice at me. I am not stating that, oh my God, why are you so loud? Are you stupid? Which is the initial reaction that a lot of people will give. Be like, why are you shouting? Are you stupid? Are you this? Are you that? Name calling, abuse happens immediately because we are being reactive. Reaction is what? There is an external stimulus, we react. We do not think. Reaction is without thinking. When conflicts happen, this happens a lot. That everybody says, like both parties are saying things without even thinking. They are just trying to, what is raising your voice? Raising your voice is just like, I am more powerful. I am towering over you now. So it's
Better,
that kind of an attitude, right?
Shut down, yeah.
Yeah, it's animalistic almost. But we as humans, we are different, na? We have to take 2 moments. If I'm shouting, why am I shouting though? Do people ever think that way? No, because all they want to do is, I'm more powerful. If you are so powerful, then it should be okay. Why are you guys fighting? Fighting also has this underlying thing that we love each other. I want you guys to understand me. There's a bid for connection there, But there's huge disparity that people want to be powerful also, people want to be vulnerable also. You have to choose one. First, do that and then conquer the second thing. You can't do both at the same time. But respect, boundary, respond instead of react in a conflict really helps. One tip that I'll give you, which changed my life, I want to give it out to everyone who's listening, in terms of conflicts, is to implement I statements. Okay? Imagine, I'll give you another example now. I come home and my partner has left all the dishes in the sink from last night. In my head, I was expecting that, oh my God, when I enter the kitchen will be spick and span. So my expectations have gone for a toss now.
Yeah.
So I get triggered. First of all, let's understand my thought process. I got triggered because I thought that he will do it.
My expectation was
And
not
these
met,
are unspoken expectations, right? That I'm already feeling that this is what they should do. But who are these they? What is the should? Right? First that. Secondly, I go to the other room and I blast out at him, that I thought, the kitchen is always unclean. You are such a dirty
Always.
person, right? You are like, so careless. You are, I'm so irritated. All of this, we go into this, dialogue. And of course, the other person will get defensive. Be like, you do that every day, that's fine. One day I kept it because I was working, I had a meeting, I had this, I had that. You are stupid, you are crazy, you are dirty. And the relationship, like that vulnerability and intimacy at that point of time would totally go to a toss, right? It's only conflict. And some people have the ability to, actually take this conflict and make it into like a month-long conflict of that.
A
right?
lot of people do that, yeah.
Yes. So now what I want you guys to do, and I'm pretty sure everybody has faced this kind of a scenario. It's bad. Yes, I feel sad for you that the kitchen is not clean. Okay? First, yes, it is bad. Secondly, I know it's hard to, do cleaning dishes at 8 o'clock in the night after you're tired, after a long 12-hour shift. Understood? Sit down, pour yourself a glass of water, see what your partner is doing, and tell him or her or them or whoever, right, that I feel very anxious if the dishes are left in the sink overnight. I feel it's hygienically, not very good. There might be, other stuff or whatever your concerns are and whatever you feel like, is bad in that entire thing. But you know what I did here? I took it all upon myself that I feel anxious. I am not name calling or charging the other person. You tell them. And this works leaps and bounds, I'm telling
That's
you.
beautiful, yeah.
I statements. You versus I statements. Instead of saying you, just start your sentence. And if you can't, think how you can tweak your you to an I. What will you say? Because that way you are being vulnerable and you are also naming your own emotions in that process. That why do I get so jittered or frustrated when I see, plates in the sink?
Yeah.
And your partner will listen to you. Any person, if you charge at them, they'll get defensive. You will have to also communicate in a way with patience and respect, right? That the person listens and the next time they'll do it. Why not? But at least try this, and I'm pretty sure it will work wonders for all of your relationships, in office, at home, in family, wherever. But
I think
try
that's
them.
a really, really great tip, using I statements and sharing. And also I feel it's also about sharing how you feel.
Yes.
And just say that, hey, you know what, this is what I'm feeling right now. And then let
Yes.
the other person figure out like how they
Yes.
can probably not trigger that again and, make you feel that way.
Correct. And also, when you say that, when you keep on like expressing that, now again, a lot of people have a lot of questions, right? But I keep on saying that never changes. Then it's a sign that you are trying to change something that might not be changed or cannot be changed.
And also sometimes it could be the things that you are expecting and you are getting triggered can be sometimes be unreasonable as well.
Yes.
And then the other partner can say, hey, you know what, I understand where you're coming from. But also don't you think that's a little unreasonable? Okay, I'm okay, I'm like okay in sort of making sure that this doesn't happen. But also I feel that you need to maybe, be less sensitive about
Yes.
this, or maybe,
Yes, you are right. This is a correct perspective, because a lot of relationships, especially modern times, we see that a lot of people have their own preconceived notions that this is how it should be, and if it's not like that, it's bad.
Yeah.
They are bad people.
Yeah.
They are this, they are that, and you start labeling them. What are we doing there? We are also, there is no neutrality, na?
Yeah.
There is black and white in your head. There is should and shouldn't. are those persons should and shouldn't matches your should and shouldn'ts? Have you ever discussed that? Maybe not. Maybe, in that same dish washing example, maybe you are thinking you are getting more triggered because you felt like, you should have a partner who takes care of the house, has feminine energy around the house. It might have been anything. That is why when we talk, talk therapy is so interesting that way, that the first layer problems sometimes are just problems. They are just problems. You can write them down, crumple that paper, throw that away. There are internal triggers of why you feel triggered. You might remember a lot of this happens. And, I'm giving a very generic but real life example of how women sometimes feel that they are living their lives of their mothers. They are investing too much in the relationship and, nobody is listening to them. That might not be their realities, but they are living the realities of their families, the conditioning of their families. Hence, it's very important to heal from other trauma that you might have felt in your life, because that creeps onto the most intimate relationship, which is your romantic relationship, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So to add to, this conflict thing, which I think for you to resolve the conflict, what I could, understand from what you've shared, among all the other things, is you need to have a very clear communication, and you need to be willing to have the difficult conversations in the relationship.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do you have those difficult conversations? Like, do you just walk up to someone and, hey, this is what I want to talk? Or do you take a time, see the person, what mood the person is in? How do you do that? Or maybe sometime like, hey, I'm going to have it on text, or maybe, I'm like, hey, can we not do it on text and maybe let's do it on over call? How do you initiate and have the difficult conversation?
Yes, again, great question. Because I feel we all need to learn how to have difficult conversations, right? We need to learn how to have difficult conversations because we have not seen, most of us growing up have not seen difficult conversations happen.
Yeah.
We do not know. We have no clue. We feel first, except for some people who might have very vocal parents or very open families, a lot of the population in India still has not maybe, seen a difficult conversation happen without abuse, without stonewalling. Stonewalling is something that, when a person is entirely silent and refuses to talk for maybe a month or two or weeks, right? Without crying, without external emotions coming out in a very, very negative way. But there is a way to do difficult conversations. Just like the example you stated, some people prefer to do this over text. I feel one huge reason why people want to do difficult conversations over text is that they want to put out their perspective, but they are refusing to listen to yours. Because if you meet face to face, it's going to be a two-way street. And are you in the mindset or in the capacity to listen to what the other person has to say? Maybe, maybe not. One good way to do a difficult conversation is to first list your intentions. Your intentions need to be correct. Your intention is not to bash the other person's personality or character up. Your intention is to have a solution to the conversation. If it's a difficult conversation, there is a problem. So we need to solve the problem. First, the mindset should be that. Not like I have listed down these faults of 10 other things that they did, and now I'm going to, this is the right, this is the right time frame to do that. No. Have the right intentions. If you want to solve the problem, get into the conversation. Otherwise, I would say, if you have frustration, if you want to rant, take a journal and write everything before talking. The moment you write everything, you'll realize how some of your thoughts are so nonsensical. Because they are just thoughts, no? Not every thought has to be true. They are just fleeting things in our brain, Not everything your partner might make sense out of it, and not everything will fulfill or propel your relationship towards growth. So first is intention. Second is to have the right time, and yes, do it face to face. Okay? A person burdened after a 12-hour shift or 24 hours of constant working cannot come home to, oh my God, this is such a bad relationship, this is what you did. The conversation is obviously going to fail. Okay? And doing it at the right time with the right intention, very important. And one thing that really works, again, I'm giving you another tip here, is what I like to introduce my clients to as the feel-good sandwich. Okay? So what is a feel-good sandwich? A feel-good sandwich is one complaint
Yeah.
or one thing that you want to talk about, which might be negative,
Or a feedback that you
sandwiched
give, yeah.
between two things that you appreciate about your partner.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you start the conversation by saying, hey, I really appreciate you helping me out on the weekends. But you know what? I am tired of, being the only person who does work throughout the other 5 days. I feel lonely, I feel tired, I feel exhausted, and I have no time left to focus on my own growth. But I know that, we can figure out something about this because I find you very level-headed and very stable, and you will have an outsider perspective on this situation of mine. So let me know how to solve this problem.
That's
This is
beautiful.
how a
That's
conflict
really
would be
beautiful.
like, In this way, you are genuinely expressing yourself and you are appreciating the other person's ability. When in a conflict, we tend to forget and we tend to take like, who is the correct one, who is not the correct one. But at the end, our aim is to find a solution. So again, incorporating that perspective into our conflicts would make our conflicts any day much more empowering to us and help as stepping stones to build our relationship more stronger. The foundation would be more stronger if we start having conflicts in this way. And an occasional burst is fine. I mean, again, like there is no pressure to keep on doing this only. It needs to be organic, but you need to know what are the tools, what are the tricks, what are the tips that you can use, right? In order to make a relationship healthy. And these things, again, like, in relationship therapy or relationship coaching, this is what we do. We equip people to understand there are techniques. This will fall under the category of a communication technique, right? How to build intimacy, how to build vulnerability, right? All of these have certain ways that we can do it.
Yeah.
But of course, we are not taught this,
Yeah.
right? So everybody is known to, expected to just know about all of this. But we don't know about all the theorems of gravity without having like, read them in school.
Yeah.
So how are we expecting people to know about these without having any prior information or education about it? So that's why all of these things are important. It'll make your relationship life so much more easier to have this perspective, which people don't usually.
Interesting. So just to add to this, the other thing that I want to, ask you is, sometimes, let's say there is something that you didn't like in a partner and you got triggered. And I'm talking more from, let's say, not on like the day-to-day, everyday stuff, but maybe something, some of their habits or something, like anything, like, some of their trait or something, and you got really annoyed. And then you don't want to invalidate their feeling or,
Right.
how they feel. At the same time, you want to sort of convey it in a way that they don't feel invalidated. At the same time, sort of, so what I'm trying to ask is like, how do you make sure that your partner doesn't feel invalidated
Right. Invalidated,
of their emotions? Yeah.
dismissed, right?
of their emotions. Yeah.
Misunderstood,
Yeah.
right? Of their emotions. One-liner, best way to do it. I don't understand this, but I support you nonetheless. Sometimes our partners are not looking for our solutions. Maybe and I might not be the right person to give every kind of solution to my partner. They need to take outer help, friends' help, colleagues' help, whenever required, right? But what I can do as a partner, as a conscious partner, is say that I might not understand this, but I support you nonetheless. I will be there if you need me. This is something that can be very accepting, very validating, and very comforting to hear from a partner.
So what are some of the red flags that people, should look out for in any relationship?
Again, this topic is, I think, much, much discussed.
Yeah.
But if I have to tell you like about red flags, I would first be very wary of extreme connection. That would be something that, so there is a difference between authentic love and trauma bonds. Okay? That's a huge concept again, but I will just like touch the surface slightly. Authentic love is something that we are talking about, okay? Something that, you know, you can respond to, something that you can support, grow, evolve over time. Whereas trauma bonds might look like very electrifying, very great, and then it fizzles off suddenly. And you are left wondering what happened, what went wrong. Sometimes extreme initial connections where you feel like, oh my God, we are soulmates, we are like, you know, so connected, where were you all my life, might not be the best connections for you. Because we are unable to see anything negative in the relationship. We are just like, oh my God, this person was meant for me.
You're in the infatuation.
Yes, it's too much.
Yes, yeah.
And we get deviated by the initial mental intimacy or physical intimacy, right? And we just lose track of what our boundaries were, what our needs were, are they in alignment, and just focusing on the extreme connection. And that is not something that's sustainable. Initial connection only happens because we both are trying to know each other. Once that knowing kind of like, you know, goes a little like the graph, like, you know, decreases, what is left in the relationship? You can't only keep on knowing the relationship, right? So an extreme initial connection is always a red flag, okay? You have to give it time to build up. You can't fall in love with a person in 2 days. That's a connection, yes. That's an infatuation, yes. And that is an attraction, yes. That might be authentic for you. You might feel genuine like attraction. But conscious love is a journey, okay? So that is one thing as a red flag, I would say. Another red flag would be to have or get signs of dishonesty, but still manipulate your own self thinking otherwise. You have clear like signs that this person is dishonest.
Give examples.
Like for example, you find the person who is committed to you in like a affair, for example, right? Or cheating, or like texting other people with the intention of, you know, striking a conversation, a romantic conversation, or like a sexual conversation. It might be anything that actually what your relationship has and what you feel as boundaries in the relationship. Now, some people are in open relationships and relationships without any boundaries or name. That's great for them if that works for them. But if you're in traditional setup where you need commitment, loyalty, trust in that person, and a person, and you get signs that, you know, this person is not, you know, it's crossing that boundary and, you know, doing something else which does not align with me, people still give on chances, you know, keep giving chances in order to, there may be different fears of not losing the relationship, or, you know, XYZ fears might be there of why a person does not want to lose the relationship. But I think if you want a committed relationship, disloyalty is a huge red flag. And once you see it, I think we should always step back. No, we should be like, okay, I've seen this. I do not want to see where this is going. Some people want to be like, no, I want to see now what they will do. Why do you want to do that? You have already gotten a sign. Just step back. That is another red flag, I would say. And third red flag, I would say, not being able to express emotions. A lot of us are used to that, especially in Indian setups. Men, especially, are meant to portray themselves as if, I don't care, मेरे को फर्क नहीं पड़ता, you know. But inside बहुत फर्क पड़ रहा होता है, you know. My entire thing with women of this generation, or people who want to date men, is that if you be strong about your opinions and your needs, do not get into a relationship thinking that this will change, because it's a journey. A person can truly change, yes, if he wants to, not if you want to. Okay? So, not being able to express emotions, and a lot of women want that, and later are like, but he doesn't express emotions and I'm unhappy. Because you ignored that. It was a non-negotiable for you, and you ignored that, and you were like, no, it's okay, he will one day. Because we also believe in the saying a lot that प्यार बहुत कुछ बदल सकता है. Love has the power to, you know, do a lot of things. It might be true. You might be like 10% people might be agreeing, but like, हाँ, बदल सकता है. But for a lot of us, not being expressive is a thing that we, you know, have in childhood, and because of certain reasons, and until and unless you are comfortable to do it, or, you know, have a personal growth, it will remain the same for a lot of people. So if you have the chance to, see it and make a choice, then make a choice that will, save you from future turmoil, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these are 3 red flags that people should watch out for. Yeah.
You know what you're doing here, Kasturi?
Yeah.
All this Bollywood fantasy of what a relationship looks like and, happily ever after. You're just spoiling that. Do you realize that?
I know. I'm such a huge bummer when it comes to and I'm a huge diehard Shah Rukh Khan fan and I love romance. And you know what? Interestingly, I'll tell you, I started off my Instagram reel. If you look at my first reel, which please people don't look at it, but since I've already mentioned now, I started with the concept of dissing Bollywood songs. DDLJ, for example. What did they show? This Casanova guy rips her undergarments off her own body and the person is supposed to love you. If that happened in real life outside, you would be beaten up by a mob. What's happening, right? And this I saw, this was a 1998 movie or 1992 movie, right? I was really young when I watched that. And Shah Rukh Khan was the man of my dreams. And for the longest time, I grew up believing that, and I couldn't wait to get into a relationship. Because the moment I get in a relationship, things like these will happen.
This will happen, yeah.
And it did happen. For the first 2 years of my first relationship, it did happen. Because as I said, I did not want to see the bad. Because I knew at the moment I saw the bad, I knew I'd be settling, I'd be compromising, and I'd feel I did not want to do all of that. And I would feel deterred from the relationship. So I put my relationship on a pedestal and I was like, oh, wow, beautiful. This is what, love and romance is. But the definitions of love and romance for Bollywood is so skewed that I like my job as a Bollywood disser, Bollywood pooper. I don't know what to say this. But I like my job that way. I think we need more fresh ideas of how modern time romance and dating is. Recently, I watched modern love stories or something,
Yeah, that's really interesting, right?
It was
completely
beautiful.
Different perspectives on
New
what a
perspective.
relationship can be. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very close to what happens in
Very
real
close,
life. Yeah.
very close, and still maintaining a kind of commerciality.
Yeah.
Very close. These are things that we want. We want more people to be portraying all of this because why I'm constantly talking about pop culture is because Bollywood is such a huge influence. Actors are such a huge influence. They feel like if that is what is being portrayed on real screen, this is what should be happening. Give us more real stuff. And we all know, everybody's family is inside. We all know what we are struggling with. But that's never shown,
Why do people are scared so much of getting out of the relationship? I see a lot of people.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what, BJ? I have been in this relationship for 5 years and now I can get out of it because I'm too scared to let go of this. Even though this person does not trust me, this person, abuses me emotionally or maybe manipulates me or I strongly feel that we have grown apart in the past 5 years. But still, I just can't let go of this person. Why are we so scared of letting go of the relationships that are not serving us?
It is very difficult to let go of relationships, especially if we talk of committed relationships, marriage or long-term relationships. Okay? And this is everywhere. This is not only in India. This is in every part of the world that people find it very difficult to let go of relationships. First of all, because we get into the relationship with the notion that it's going to last forever. This is it. That is how we get into it. So whenever we say this is it now, there is no scope for us to be like, this might not be it. Let me, look at all of this and grow and ask my partner to grow. No, it's mostly functioning with the belief that this is it. Now, whatever is coming your way, take it, handle it, whatever it is, bear in silence because this is it. You only said, no, this is it. We are very hard on ourselves also. We are like, you chose this person. Now, it's different for, arranged marriages though, arranged, setups where, there might be a lot of resentment for the people who arranged it then. And I feel like relatively is much more easier to somehow not have that connection in an arranged marriage and get out of it also. That also I have seen. But sometimes, when you have make that choice on your own and even this need not, translate to marriage. Even in a long-term commitment, where people might not be married and still be together for like the past 10, 15 years, it's very difficult for us to leave. It's because how could we be so wrong? First, that's the initial thought. And we do not want to be wrong. So we say we'll try more. We will try more. We'll try more. But if any of you guys who are listening to this or anyone that you know of is in a difficult abusive relationship, first of all, I would always ask you to acknowledge that yes, it's a difficult time and speak to someone. That is very important. Because the moment you speak, you get a lot of perspective about what is actually going wrong, what is it that can be done, and what is it that might not happen. And you are just idealizing in your head, right? So that. And one major reason why people find it very difficult is because dependence. This I especially see with the females in our country. They would bear a lot of stuff because they are dependent. They have kids with the person now. They are dependent financially, you know. And in everything else, in every sector, they are dependent. And you always, you know, if you're facing abuse, you need to acknowledge it. You need to speak it out because, you know, nobody can help you without you asking for help. These are very intimate situations like these, right? So if a person is willing to leave, they can always come to a counselor or a therapist with a mental health background who can help them identify what kind of abusive relationship they are in and find a game plan or like an exit plan for them. You know, how to exit it if they really want to do so. Obviously, there will be consequences. Living in the relationship also has consequences. Leaving the relationship will also have consequences. That goes without saying. So instead of being afraid of taking the next step, the most saddest thing that we do to ourselves is not take any action. Don't be in a limbo. Go somewhere. If you're in a bad situation right now, there are two paths in front of you. One is to separate, the other is to work on it. Then work on it genuinely. These 5 years you have worked on it. Nothing is coming out of it. Then change your work methods. Do something that you haven't tried before. Do anything that you feel that, you know, will help you resolve it. And then give it your best shot. And if it can't happen, give yourself a deadline and then get out of it. If you want to get out of it, go ahead. But be sure that you will need to get everything that you had been supported, you will need to do it for yourself first. You will have other people talking behind your back, which happens in every society, right? Absolutely. But people talk about you behind your back anyway. You know, doesn't matter whether you're in a relationship or not, right? So, but the worst that, you know, most people do, they are in limbo. They are inactive. They are scared of action. Except go in a way. I'm not saying that you have to separate or you have to work on it. It's your choice. But do something.
So one of the concepts that I was recently introduced to is that every relationship has its purpose. Whether that relationship is trying to teach you something or whether that person came to your life because you needed to learn a few lessons or maybe you needed a bit of a growth in your life and you went together on that journey and then when the relationship comes to an end, that means the purpose of that relationship is served. And also, I've seen that you have also created a reels on the similar or reel or maybe a carousel on Instagram recently where you said about relationship come with an expiry date or relationship happen, expiry. So do you believe that of course you do, that's why you created the reel. So do you think relationship do have an expiry date and a purpose of relationship, and when that's served it's okay to let go? What do you mean when you say
right. I believe relationships come with an expiry date. First of all, the inevitable universal truth is that we will die one day. And relationships that we have, the maya that we have, the illusion of having and owning something in the world will end with this. Okay? Relationships will inevitably end with our death. Okay? So that is the first reason. There may be other reasons why a relationship might end. Disloyalty, abuse, right? Lack of trust, not having same growth, compromise and lack of support from the other person, and a person is giving too much, not getting much in return. So all of these things, right? Our purposes are different, our goals are different, it doesn't align anymore. a relationship can die. Okay? So now what happens? Why I made that post is because I feel a lot of people in relationships do not live in the present and are worried about the future. Okay, how will I do this in 10 years? How will I do this? Will this be my life in 40 years? This is the kind of turmoil that people are facing. Okay? What I want to, tell people and, give a perspective is that you absolutely cannot know if the relationship that you are in right now will be there in the next 10 years or not, because you do not know how you will feel in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
If you know exactly how you'll feel in the next 10 years, that means you're letting go of all of your growth. You're not growing only. If that's a position you want to be in, please go ahead and do that. But in a conscious relationship, that's not what we're aiming for. We are aiming to live our fullest lives. We are aiming to live our fullest potential. How does that come? It comes by growth. Na? It comes by living life. Not living life with the worry that if I do this, it will affect my relationship in the wrong way and my relationship won't be there in the next 10 years. See, the intention of why you have the relationship and the fear in the first place is wrong. That intention is not valid. You are not caring about your growth. You will already be resenting the other person.
Yeah.
Because after 10 years, you'll be like, you are the reason that, I couldn't grow.
Yeah.
So what will you do in your 11th year? Fight. Right?
Yeah.
So relationships come with an expiry date, and I believe in it. And everybody should believe in it and not hold on to relationships so strongly as if they are the only one who will take the person with them if they die also. Can't happen, na?
Yeah.
So live in the present. Try and do everything that's in your hand to make it better.
Yeah.
If you're having problems, do something to make it better. If you're okay with it, enjoy without the anxiety of what if this does not last. That's not for us to think. What we can do is live in the present, live in the moment, and everything will figure itself out, because that's how life is. We are all winging it all the time. Nobody has like a definite plan of how life would be. We are just, free falling with an idea of where we want to go.
Super. I think, this episode is the one, a lot of people who are listening to it, right? They are like, I'm sure they must be thinking that, hey, I wish I heard this conversation 10 years back or maybe 15 years back. And for the people who are looking at getting into relationship, this conversation that you guys just listened to right now is just gold. I was introduced to some of the concepts that Kasturi shared just a few months back, and I wanted to explore more, and then that's why Kasturi is here. But hey, this has been such an insightful conversation. I'm sure this is going to change the conversation around how we are looking at relationship, how, people treat each other, how they resolve conflicts. Oh my God, we've covered a lot of ground.
We've covered a lot, and I hope this helps.
Yeah.
And, honestly, the way you said, I wish, we all wish that, we would have heard and spoken about these kind of things before we got into our initial relationship, without Shah Rukh Khan telling me how a relationship should be, which I also thank him for romanticizing our lives.
Yeah.
But, from the conscious perspective, we have had no talk about that. So I'm glad that, you called me here today, and I'm extremely glad to have, spoken about so many things with you.
Yeah.
And you gave me a chance to actually, talk about all of this and these things which really matter from, my perspective to everyone else who's hearing. And I really thank you for being such a great host and asking the most amazing questions to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know that people, if you go and implement 20% of what you have listened in this conversation, your relationship is definitely going to go to the next level. Because I know that for a fact, for some of the things for instance, how do you resolve conflict?
Right.
How do you have those difficult conversations, and how do you make sure that, the other person, when you are triggered, then how do you convey to your partner?
Yes.
Those are some of the really practical tips that people can go and implement. So where can people find you if they want to learn more from you and maybe shoot you an email or maybe text?
Yes. People can find me on Instagram. My handle is Hey Miss Therapist. And you can also shoot me an email. You will also find a button on Instagram. And you can also shoot me an email right now to makingcouplesconscious@gmail.com. And yeah, I speak a lot, and I have a lot of free gyan to give you guys on Instagram. So please go and follow my page there. And
A lot of valuable gyan.
yes,
Yeah.
valuable free gyan. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I think we should thank the internet for that,
Yeah,
right? So that we are
absolutely.
being so accessible to everyone around the world. And I give out sessions as well. So write an email to me or like visit my website. It's www.relationshiptherapy.in. You can find more info there. And yeah, you'll know where to find me then.
I'll link all of that on the description of this episode, but I would highly recommend that you should definitely check her Instagram, because that's where she posts a lot of content, and that will also, of course, now you guys are already introduced to her work through this conversation, but you will get to know a lot about her and the kind of stuff that she's putting out on on Instagram. I think that can be a starting point. And if you're somebody who's struggling in your relationship, she does relationship therapy as well. So, just have a chat with her. Thank you so much, Kasturi. It has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bijay. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. Thank you so much.